Yeah, today we're talking about I Want to Escape from Princess Lessons. It's a fantasy anime, kind of set in like an Otome game, I guess. But it's not an isekai, surprisingly. Actually, it's just straight fantasy. That's a little bold, but it's a good way to start the new. It's a good way to start the new year, honestly. Nothing wrong with the Otome games popping up every once in a while, but there's a very big quality difference. Like the difference between I left my A rank party versus the life of what's it called? Life of an online shopper. Like they're different things. Like the I left my party is a is a fantasy with kind of the modern stuff. But it's one of those animes that I don't quite feel as strong about. Like I'm watching it right now. I'm gonna watch it for a little bit, but I can just feel the energy that it's not as good. But we're going to get back on track because we're talking about basically the first two. We're going to talk about the first episode of I Want to Escape Princess Lessons, and maybe we'll go into episode 2 here. But the one thing I liked about this episode is the one thing I liked about the story, just the premise of it, is just the premise of like a noble lady wanting to give up her, I guess we'd call it privilege. But she also wants to abdicate responsibilities, to be honest. But it does kind of show the stress of of those cultures back then, where things were decided when you were 9. So it's like you're preparing your entire life to do this one thing, which for her it's to be queen. That's no small thing. But it's kind of nah, I'm not gonna make it political, but it's like there's some parallels in our world where it's like it'd be like being born and being told you're gonna be well, I guess you're not president. I guess I'm not fully sure what queens do in actual world. They can rule. I know England had the queen for a while, but anyways, let's focus. When I was watching the first episode, the main thing I was taking away from it was when she gets pulled into those lessons and that strict old crone of a teacher is there. Also, it really shows how kind of depressing it is to be in those lessons all day. You're pulled away from your family. Oh yeah, you're ripped away from your family too. In this, the main heroine is ripped away from her family. I can't remember her name offhand now, but she has red hair, so I like her already. But she's ripped away from her family, forced to endure with this pretty strict teacher. And all I could think of the entire time I was watching this old bag just ram, basically paddle the new queen's ass. Is like, this doesn't feel like a long career choice, to be honest. Like, I understand she probably has some protections, but on the other hand too, you could just imagine if this girl did become queen, you don't think she would say, execute that old bag? Like, she's the queen, and obviously in this story the prince does love her, I think he did. He had a shit way of doing it, I guess. That's another twist I like that's coming up. But that's all I could think of when I was watching that old tutor just smack the shit out of the protagonist. It's like, wow, you're teaching the future queen etiquette. And I understand she's just doing her job. Her job is to kind of be a hard ass, but it's also like, it's like, oh man, what do you do if she gets really pissed off at you in the future and just finds a way to execute you without any questions asked? Like, that's something like I said, she probably has protections, but it isn't. I find it interesting seeing that scope of the light, that light of the life, I guess, for noble culture, I guess. I wonder how much of that is influenced by Japanese tiger moms. That seems like the archetype, but she grows up and she does become the elegant lady. And part of the I'm kind of I'm joking about having the main protagonist having to endure the lessons, but I do kind of agree that you do need to learn the skills to do stuff. Now what do you need to you do need to learn the skills to do stuff. I've certainly had to learn a few things myself, although, there's some gender differences, I guess, but a lot of the stuff I learned, I wanted to learn, but there's a lot of stuff you don't want to learn too. So it's important to do stuff you're not comfortable with, but it's another thing too. It's like, did she ever get a break? Like, I understand the standards are different in medieval Europe fantasy world number 10,000 here. But, it's like, you're already pulled her away from her family. You didn't even let her bring her damn dog. So it's like, she's already stressed out. This could have been a villain origin story. Like, this story could have gone off. If I was writing this, this would have been her rising to power and basically, like, just torturing her childhood persecutors. It'd be kind of petty, but it's like the first would be the teacher. The next thing to know, the former king and queen are getting executed. Like, if I was writing this would be a lot darker. So I'm kind of glad it's not. But my first impression, I do like the big twist at the end of the episode when the prince shows up with the other girl, and this I do like this cinnamon roll of a woman. I am sorry I don't remember her name. I'm gonna look at it. I should look it up here, but when the way she just drops the persona right in public, it's like, screw you, and the horse you rode it on, and it's like, I'm glad you broke off our engagement. She just yeets herself out of the palace. It's just hysterical, and I love it. Gotta say, for some of the people in charge, like the prince, you found out in episode 2 or 3 later, he does want to be with her. Like, he says, I'm only going to have heirs with this chick, the red-haired chick. The purple-haired chick has to endure the lessons in the meantime. But on the other hand, too, if you're in the prince's shoes, and I think it's kind of implied he kind of knew the lessons were sour on her, so he kind of wanted to give her a break. But on the other hand, too, the fact that she was so gung-ho to leave you, it's like, this arranged marriage we've had since we were kids might not work out. Then like the king and queen, I'm waiting to hear the king and queen's perspective too. Especially the queen's, because the queen's brought up in episode 1 or 2, I think. Where it's like, I really want to hear this queen's perspective, because obviously I think she'd be in charge of that education. But it's a fun little series. It's one of those weird series that I find myself intrigued by the premise. I do, just as kind of like what are the lessons learned from the stories? Now, stories don't always have to have lessons. A lot of novels are just entertainment in a lot of ways. I think that's how they were regarded. They weren't like instruction manuals. They were just fun. They were basically the TV of the TV of the medieval days, or but back, not even medieval days, but if you, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm trying to stay focused, but they weren't seen as highbrow entertainment. Like they bring it up in Apothecary Diaries in the new season 2 episode. So it's interesting. It's interesting, but like I said, I do feel like there is a problem of enforcing the you can do whatever you want mentality, because some of the problems I see with it, and I understand this isn't really it's hard to say this is an adult show, but it's not really a kid's show either. It's an anime, so it's 15, 16, teenagers, I guess, teenager show. It's probably the shoujo side of it too. But the thing with it that I don't like, and like I like the show, but the lesson I don't like is the enforcing of you can do whatever you want. Like the girl, like honestly, the girl is kind of is very desirable. I mean, she wants to fish and run outside. That's pretty good in my book. But there's just things in life you have to do that are unpleasant. You can't be happy all the time, and I feel like it's caused a lot of problems for people in my age range. Millennial age range, 30s. Is that follow your dreams, do whatever you want nonsense? You can do anything. I feel like that has the ramifications that we're seeing now, because there's a lot of things that are kind of messed up with my generation that, you could say previous ones were a little too hard, but I feel like ours was a little too soft in some regards. But I don't know. I want to see where it goes. I mean, I guess I don't like the idea of shows promoting the complete disregard of responsibility. Like, does this girl have to be queen? No. Does she want a life of privilege? She still lives in a mansion. And, back then the deal was, you're rich, you're marrying into another family to stay being rich. You know, that was kind of the payoff for being born into a family of privilege. You know, I think Shad Brooks from Shadiversity, he has a good rant about this when War of the Rohirrim came out. That, you know, she was with Helen, you know, she was born a princess, so she you know, part of the being born into this life of privilege was she had to get married to somebody, you know, to, you know, kind of pay back the debt for being born a princess in a lot of ways. But you know, if one of those things, if you don't want to do it, well, you don't get to stay a princess. And this girl, I really hate that I can't remember her name. It's not Delilah, is it? No, it's not Delilah. I should look it up right now. Actually, I am going to look it up right now. Yeah, it's Alicia, or Letty. Yeah, Alicia. That's what I thought. Yeah. So she shares the same name as Alicia from The Realist Hero, How a Realist Hero Rebuilt a Kingdom. So that's interesting. But that's not a name I hear often, so that's why I couldn't remember it. But she's also called Letty. But although the prince's name is Clark, I don't know why I find that so amusing, but we'll get wrapped up here. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if Letty wants to keep a life of privilege. Like, I feel like she would be pretty happy just living in a normal village. But then again, the problem I have with these fantasies too, getting into a little bit of the setting analysis, is a lot of these fantasy settings, anime fantasy settings, kind of discount the fact that a lot of the farmers back then, and I'm going to speak from experience here because I was raised with, my dad's a farmer. I was raised farming. You know, yeah, we have tractors and stuff, so we get a lot more work done. But, you know, subsistence farming is very different from what farming is today. And a lot of people don't know how farming today is done either. You know, people think milk comes from the store. It doesn't. But I'm not gonna touch on that right now. But you know, back in the day, you had to work a lot to just get enough food done for yourself, and maybe you had a little bit extra to hand out for your neighbors, and maybe enough extra to sell. But, you know, back then, everybody was farming for themselves. You know, back then, everybody kind of had their own plot of land. They were growing their own vegetables for themselves. They each had, if they're lucky, they maybe had a cow, you know. So there wouldn't be like, you know, I guess she can fish. So she wouldn't be bad. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, there's just a lot of stuff with some anime fantasies that, you know, it's tough for me to take them a little seriously because, like, yeah, it's nice that you have a bento box store, but it's like back then everybody would have prepared their own food. You know, it's just one of those things. I should probably do a more in-depth video on that later, but I'll be trying to. I'm kind of running out of my own stuff to do, so I think I'm going to be doing more character analysis. But I think I got to have more notes. So I'm also going to be trying to do more upload stuff. But yeah, I would recommend. I'd recommend giving I Want to Escape Princess Lessons a chance. It's a good show. I mean, it's funny at least. You know, it's not the most action-packed anime, but I like the premise is funny enough to me. But oh yeah, I guess I should talk about Prince Clark a little bit. Dude kind of fucked up. Like I said, it's kind of implied that he wanted to do it to get her attention or rile her up. But like I said, if my engaged fiance just expressed supreme joy at presumably ending our engagement, it's like, oh boy, it's like oof. This is Now, he didn't ever say he was going to end the engagement, but she just ran with that. The fact that she just took off and ran with that I'd be kind of concerned. Like, ooh boy, better start doing some better stuff. And I think he is. Yeah, I think he's not a bad guy, but right now he's just such a. No, he had some insight. He does catch up to her, and they have some conversation. But you know, he's clearly letting her run free, but he still wants her to be queen. Which, for modern sensibilities, it's like, dude, I don't know if this is gonna work. You know, maybe it does, but like I said, I gotta find out what the queen's role in this story is. So I'm interested to hear her perspective. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Hope y'all had a good day. If you want to check out my own works, it's Saint Saga of the Black Beast on Amazon. I'm gonna try and have links in the description. But I'm gonna try and upload more, see if I can find a niche or not, or I don't know. We'll see how this goes. All right, bye.